What is up, guys? The Casey's here with another video, and today we are going to be working on a beginner app project. We're calling this a music pad. I've released the app on the App Store if you want to see the final product, but this is basically going to be giving you guys a introduction into programming if you're new to programming, or if you just need to get another step up before you go into advanced apps. So to get started, let's open up a new project in Xcode. We're going to create a single view application, and we are going to name this music app. Everything there is good. Next. First things first, let's head over to our main.storyboard. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys more beginner stuff, so I'm going to be explaining it a lot more. Really taking you through it. The videos will take a little bit longer, but you'll have a better understanding of what's going on in these videos. So basically, if you guys don't know, the main.storyboard is pretty much the user interface where you build the user interface for your apps, okay? That's called the main.storyboard. And in the storyboard, you have view controllers. This is where the view, this view will load up. So if we run the app right now, it's just going to be a blank white screen. View controllers have classes and different things like that, which in more videos I'll go into depth on that stuff. But in this video, basically the view controller.swift is controlling the data, the code for this view controller right here. Okay, and it's linked up because if you go over here to the custom class button, you'll see the classes of view controller, which is the view controller.swift. So it's all linked up there. We don't have to worry about anything else linking up. On this video, we're going to be using constraints to hold these buttons in place. And a constraint basically keeps an object at a point on the screen because there's different phone sizes. So if you make different constraints, it holds them on the different phone sizes and not just one phone. On the bottom right, make sure you have clicked on this little home button, the object library, and at the bottom there's a little search thing, filter, search button. And a button will pop up. Just click and drag that button onto the screen. So this button is going to be one of our sounds. So you tap it on the music pads that the DJs use, and it's going to make a sound, okay? So we're going to have a whole bunch of them, and when you click different ones, it's going to make different sounds. So we want to remove the text here. This is the attributes inspector up here. You can change different attributes of the object. And over here on the left, you can see in the view, we have different objects. And currently we only have a button, but we're going to be having more, we're going to be adding more. So when you click on the button, scroll down, you can, the view of the button, you can change the background color. You can pick whatever color you want, doesn't matter. But we're going to be dragging this out like so. If you say Command D while you're on the object, it duplicates it, okay? We're going to do this a couple more times. We're going to have 6 different buttons. Okay, awesome. Now, a cool thing that Apple created is called stack views. Stack views basically have 2 objects inside of them. It can make the constraints a lot easier for varying on different size screens, maybe for twisting the screen sideways or whatever. It keeps stuff more organized. So when in doubt, you really do want to use stack views. It makes it so your view looks good on small sizes, looks good on big sizes, and it's able to adjust based off of the size. You don't have to write code or anything like that. Xcode does it for you. So when in doubt, if you can, use stack views. So we're going to make a horizontal stack view with these 2 buttons, and you'll see what happens. It just throws these 2 buttons together, almost like a new view. And if we were to drag this back down here, okay, it's staying together. now we're gonna do that with these other buttons as well. You see how it like groups them together? That's what stack view does, it groups things. And then you can add constraints and things like that to the group. Now we're gonna take these 3 stack views, okay? So you can hold shift and select all of them, and we're gonna put them in a stack view. And so now we got 6 buttons in a stack view. Well, with the stack view, we want to constrain it 20 from the side, right here, and then 20 on this side, and 20 on all the sides, basically. So it's just gonna be, you'll see what happens when I constrain it 20 from the side. So there's a thing called a margin right here, and it is 20, like the point, I forgot what they're called, I think they're like points or something like that. This is 20 points right here, but if you're constraining to the margin, then it's 0. See, so it's really 20 if we were to move the stack view over a little bit. Oh. So you see, if I were to constrain it, see now it's 0 to the view, and then this is to the margin. So you got the margin, and then you got the view. So we're just gonna pin it 0 to the margin, okay? On top, on our left side, our right side, and then the bottom, okay? So 0, 0, 0. And you notice it just threw it down at the bottom. Well, we need to constrain a top, otherwise it's not going to stretch. So let's throw in a label. So at the bottom, again, search label. And we can throw in a label up here. And this is going to be called music pad. I don't know. Whatever you guys want the title to be. And we're going to throw this up at the top. Increase the font size, whatever. This is in the attributes inspector again. You can center the text. You have all these different options. I suggest just like reading through these. It helps out a lot if you know what is in each object, the different things you can do without having to code the different options. So that's pretty cool. You can change the color, a green. Let's go a dark gray. And now we're gonna pin this one 15 from the top, 0 and 0 on the side, and we're gonna give it a fixed height. So a fixed height basically means that the object can't get any higher. It's not constraining to the margins where it can get bigger or smaller. It has a fixed size, can't get bigger or anything like that. So we're gonna add the 4 constraints at the bottom. So now we got that. We can actually pin, click on the stack view again, and right here where it has like the box, that's where you can add constraints, and the top constraint is going to be 0. So you see how we just pin that 0 to the label? You see how it just like stretches like that? Well, now we're going to want to click back on the stack view, and if you go to the attributes inspector, you can, there's a couple different things that you can do. For alignment, we're going to have fill. Alignment's going to be fill. Distribution is going to be fill equally. Okay. Now on each stack view, because this is a stack view that has multiple stack views inside of it, on these stack views we're going to do the same thing, fill equally. For distribution, it's going to be fill equally. So you see now how it has 2 big squares. So let's do that again. Fill equally. On the final stack view, fill equally. So now we got 6 different squares. And you know what? I want some spacing in between these 2 buttons. So in the spacing of the attributes, I'm going to say 20. And you see how it gave it a little space right there? And the next stack view, I'm going to do the same thing, 20. And the next one, the same thing, spacing of 20. Now in the large stack view, this is a vertical stack view, and these are horizontal. It's going side to side. This big one is going vertical up and down because it has this stack view, this stack view, this stack view, up and down. And in here we're going to add a spacing of 20. So as you can see, now we have some buttons, right? Pretty cool. I'm up the size of this right here. And on this stack view, I'm going to give it a little bit more spacing on the top and bottom. basically what I just did, if you click on any of your objects that have constraints and you go to this little ruler, it's called the size inspector, and you scroll down, it shows the different constraints right here. And if you want to edit the constraints, change them without having to delete them, you can do that right here. Just click edit, and you can change its values, greater than or equal, priority, multiplier, all that stuff. Or if you want, you can even delete it. If it's selected, just click delete, it goes away. Pretty simple, pretty nice. And now we're just going to change the color. And like what I said with the constraints and things, see if you change the size of the device at the bottom, you notice how the squares, the buttons start to change size, which is really nice. And it was simple, it didn't take very much constraints. If we didn't use the stack view, we would have had to done a ton of constraints. Stack views make it simple, easy, very friendly for the coder, okay? But we want to change the color on some of these. So we're heading back, select 2 of them. So the rows, you can do whatever colors you want in any style, but I'm doing each row has a different color. And I selected both of these buttons, and I went to the attributes inspector. And the background color, I'm going to change to a green. And then for the bottom row, selecting both, holding command, you can select both. I'm going to change the background of that to orange. Yeah, that's cool. Orange. Just like that. So right now we got different colors. You learned a little bit about attributes. You learned a little bit about constraints. You learned how, like, what storyboard is, what the storyboard is. You know, it's the view of your app. And I'm gonna show you guys a little bit more on this label right here. A really cool label. I don't know why some people don't like system font. Apple has a really cool font. They've done a ton of work on this font, and if you guys don't use it, I would highly suggest starting to use it. It has some very complex stuff that they've done to make this font amazing. You can watch videos on it. I believe last year's WWDC they talked about it. I just watched a video on it. It was crazy, some of the stuff they did, and it just looks beautiful to me. But if you click on the little T, you can change the style. So if you want a bold style, see how it changes, a semi-bold, different things like that. You can change the size here. That's pretty cool. And if you want to change the font itself, up here at the font, just go to custom, and then you can change it to whatever font you want. Pretty simple. But I like the system font. I believe it's called San Francisco or something like that. SF. Not 100% sure on the full name. But, I mean, style-wise, maybe not the best, but it's not looking bad. It looks alright. Very colorful. One thing to note on a label. You see how my font is kind of big here? If I go to a smaller device size, okay, I didn't do it here, but say I made this font really big, right? It fits on the iPhone 7, but if I go to the iPhone 4, oh, it fits on all of these. Let's make it bigger. So here, it fits on the iPhone 7 Plus, but if I go to the iPhone 4, you see how it doesn't fit anymore? One way to fix that is in the attributes, there's auto shrink, and its default is fixed font size. But if you change it to minimum font size, you can give it a minimum font size of whatever you want. It could be 11, and if it's cutting off the text, it shrinks the font so that it fits in there. So now we go to the 7 Plus, it fits there. And when we go to the iPhone 4, it fits there. So that's a really cool tip on the labels part of it, just so that fonts fit in them. Now, of course, this is really big, and you don't want this, but you learn something cool. So I'm just going to change this font back to like 20. Well, that's really small. 40. There we go. That's good. So here, color scheme, not looking too good, but it's not really about the colors. It's about getting this app done and all that stuff. If you guys want to change the colors up, feel free. You guys now know how to do that. on both labels and buttons. And most of the stuff, it's all pretty similar. Now our next step in this app is we're going to be adding tags to each button. So for instance, if I were to tap this button and it's supposed to play a sound, and I was going to tap this button and it's supposed to play a sound. Usually speaking, that's going to take a lot of coding to make an action for this button, an action for this button, an action for this button. That'd be 6 different IB actions running the same code. And there's a principle called the dry principle. It's don't repeat yourself. So you don't want to be repeating any code. So one way to marginalize this code, or one way to cut down on repeating code, would be to add tags to these buttons. And if the button has a different tag, then it plays different code. Okay, so start off adding tags to these buttons. So this one will be 0, 1, 2. You can make up the numbers whatever you want, but just make sure they're all different numbers. Okay. Awesome. So I have 5 different numbers because the first one's tag is 0. And now when we go to the view controller, let's create an IB action down at the bottom. An IB action is basically when an action takes place in your code, then run this code. So for instance, tapping a button. If the button's tapped, where you link it up in the storyboard, we haven't done it yet, but you link it up, and when this action occurs, run this code, okay? So at IB action, so because you guys are more beginners if you're watching this tutorial, sometimes it could be a little bit hard to memorize stuff. And if you ever need help setting up IB actions or IB outlets, there's this little 2 circles at the top right. It's called the assistant editor. If you click there, so it pulled up manually the view controller, right? These are 2. This view controller is linked up to this code, right? View controller's class is a view controller, and this is the view controller class. It's code, okay? So if I wanted to link up an IB action right here, if you right click on your mouse, you see a little blue line, and you drag to the code and you let go, you can say connection is going to be an action. You can name this action, so this is going to be play sound, touch up inside, and then sender, doesn't matter, okay? And then just click connect. Look at that, okay? Perfect. So that's an IB action. That's one way to set it up. You can also, like this is probably easier for beginners, but the way I like to do it is delete that. I just type it out because it's a lot faster for me. And also, in this instance, we're going to say UI button. But when you have a lot of code on your computer running Xcode, sometimes it can bog down, especially if it's a big file, and you can't really do this unless you have a super fast computer. So typing it in is a lot faster in this function. So if you want to get out of that, you can just click the lines almost like a paper, and it will take you back to this view, and then you can go back to the view controller. But in the press button IB, oh yeah, so to link up this IB action, head back to the main.storyboard. If you didn't do the connection with the, what's it called? The assistant editor, if you didn't do the connection with the assistant editor, and you go to view controller up here, and you right click, you will see at the bottom. So here's another good thing. So you'll notice these are all of the connections that this view controller on the main.storyboard has to the view controller.swift's code, okay? And this play sound right here was the function I created with the assistant editor. but I deleted it. And I deleted it in the code and not on the main.storyboard. So the main.storyboard is trying to find that function, but it can't find it. That's why I see this little yellow error right here. It's not defined. So that's going to throw an error if we try running the code. So you have to exit out of that. Otherwise, you're going to have an error. Many times people will get the error and they don't know why, but that's one way. Now, if you want to link it up, just put your mouse over this little circle and there's a plus button, and you click and drag that to the button that you want. And then you have to say touch-ups inside, and there's other ones depending on what you need. But in this instance, we're going to connect this IB action to all of the buttons. So if any button's pressed, this function is going to be called, okay? So just drag that to all the different buttons. Alright, perfect. So you know all of the buttons are connected if you go over this function and all of the buttons are blue and they say button next to them, okay? So we're good there, and we will continue with this video, not next week because I'll be in WWDC, but the week after that, and we'll be writing the code part of this so you can play the sound. So we're going to be using AV Foundation to play sounds when the button's tapped. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. And if the next video in this series is out, it will be right here. If the next video is not out, please turn on notifications so you never miss when I release a new video. And I appreciate you guys watching this video. Have a good one. Peace.